Hey everyone, so today on the channel, I'm going to keep it super simple. We're going to do a modern tiki cocktail that is not rum based and it's tequila based. Well, agave because we're going to do a split base. But anyway, this is a perfect tiki cocktail to use for Cinco de Mayo, which actually happens to be today. So I'm Andy, and today we're going to be making the privateer. Let's do this. Now, as I mentioned in my intro, today happens to be Cinco de Mayo. So happy Cinco de Mayo for those of you that want to celebrate. So in honor of that, for today's video, I decided I didn't want to do a rum-based cocktail. Now, sure, I could have just done a margarita, but a lot of people have done that. So instead, I wanted to show you a modern tiki cocktail that chooses not to use rum as its base spirit, but it uses tequila instead. And I'm actually going to show you my slight riff on it, my reinterpretation of it. Now, the cocktail that I happen to be talking about is the Privateer by Chris Vanderginst of the Mutiny Bar in Detroit. Now, Chris, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right, and if I'm not, I greatly apologize. But anyway, Chris decided that he wanted to see what the evolution of tiki would look like. And so he thought to himself, well, maybe that tiki does not need to be constrained and confined by the means of just rum. So instead, he wanted to look at what tiki might look like if we used a different base spirit, such as tequila. You know what? Before we continue, let's see what we need to make my version of Chris's Privateer. To make my version of Chris's Privateer, we're going to need Blanco Tequila, Joven Mezcal, Passionfruit Syrup, acid-adjusted pineapple juice, and Saline Solution. Aromatic Bitters. All right, let's talk about some of the choices that I made and how they're different than Chris's original recipe. So in Chris's original recipe, he uses a reposado tequila. I have found that it just gets muddied in this cocktail, and especially in my version of it. So I actually like the crisp, clean flavor that a Blanco tequila brings instead. And for my Blanco tequila, I am using Tanteo. It's a great non-additive tequila that if you're looking for something a little bit better, again, better is subjective, but if you're looking for something a little bit more craft, then something like a Casamigos, I highly recommend it. It's affordable and readily available in most markets. Next up, I am actually going to split my base. I'm not going to go with simply just tequila. Instead, I'm going to split that with a little bit of mezcal as well. I love what the smokiness does to this cocktail, especially with the pineapple juice that we're going to be using. Speaking of which, let's talk about my pineapple juice. For my pineapple juice, I'm using an acid-adjusted pineapple juice. Now, in Chris's original recipe, he uses lime juice and pineapple juice. Essentially, what I've done is I've taken my pineapple juice and added acid to it to bring it up to the acidity of lime juice. And I do that by taking a liter or 1,000 milliliters of pineapple juice and adding 32 grams of citric acid and 20 grams of malic acid, putting that into a container and gently rolling it back and forth until the acid dissolves. You do not want to put this in a blender because that pineapple juice will froth up and it will just be a mess. Now, of course, you can always scale this recipe down. If you wanted a smaller batch, all you need is 100 milliliters of pineapple juice, 3.2 grams of citric acid, and 2 grams of malic acid. Now, the reason that we acid adjust juice is so that we can tone down the dilution of cocktails. Instead of doing lime juice and pineapple juice, I get to do just pineapple juice, and it still brings that sweetness that the pineapple juice is going to bring without the extra dilution that the lime is going to bring. For the passionfruit syrup, I'm just using my BJ Reynolds. You guys have seen me use this 1,000 times. I love it. It's easy. It's simple. If you don't have BJ Reynolds at home, feel free to make a homemade one as well. Now, Chris's original cocktail calls for a pinch of salt. As you guys know, I typically add saline solution to all of my cocktails. So instead of adding a pinch of salt, which is harder to measure, we're just going to use saline solution instead. And then, of course, one of my other additions or tweaks to this recipe happens to be my addition of pepper in complement of the salt, essentially aromatic bitters, right? Bitters are something that I add to pretty much all of my cocktails to add a depth of flavor. All right, that's enough about the ingredients. Let's get to building this cocktail. I'll taste it. I'll tell you what it tastes like, and we can talk more about it. And some other cocktails that you may want to do or may want to see in future Cinco de Mayo recipes. Anyway, grab your shaking tin because that's what we're going to need. In your shaking tin, we're going to add 5 drops of saline solution. Next up, you're going to need 2 dashes of aromatic bitters. Now, of course, if you are using a smaller dasher, like a Japanese dasher bottle, you're going to want to bring that up to 4 dashes. Next up, we're going to need 3/4 of an ounce or 22.5 milliliters of our acid-adjusted pineapple juice. Now again, this pineapple juice is going to bring acid and sweetness and that bold pineapple flavor that we're going to want in this cocktail. It's going to complement the smokiness from the mezcal perfectly. Next up, we're going to need our passion fruit syrup, and for that, we are going to need 3/4 of an ounce or 22.5 milliliters. Next up, we're going to add 1/2 ounce or 15 milliliters of our mezcal. And last but not least, we're going to need 1.5 ounces or 45 milliliters of our Blanco Tequila. We're gonna add some pebble ice to our shaking tin, and we're gonna give it a nice whip shake for about 5 to 8 seconds. We're gonna grab a double rocks glass and open pour in. We're gonna top it off with more pebble ice. For a garnish, we're gonna go with a torched rosemary sprig. And don't forget your Surfside tip straw. So there you have it, my version of Chris's Privateer. Let's give this a try. Yeah, so that is a wonderful cocktail. It kind of reads like a margarita, right? But it's so much different. On the nose, you're being whacked in the face with that torched rosemary, which is smoky and floral. And then on the palate, that smokiness from the torched rosemary is being complemented by the smokiness from the mezcal. On top of that, that is being complemented by this like passion fruit, pineapple. It's almost like a grilled pineapple papaya fruit salad. And all of that is being carried by the tequila, and it plays so well. Now, originally, Eric says to serve this in 2 separate ways. One in a tiki mug over ice, or one served up in a coupe. I don't really prefer mugs for this channel because I like you guys to see the cocktails, and the coupe just didn't seem fitting for this. So instead, I wanted to do it over pebble ice in a double rocks glass. Also, I know a lot of you guys saw that I recently purchased a Hamilton Beach Blender, and you said, Andy, why didn't you just do a nice flash blend in the Beach Blender? While I would have loved it to use it for this video, this is more in style with like Trader Vic. Trader Vic was the one that would have used tequila in his original cocktails. He didn't flash blend his cocktails, Don did. So instead, I wanted to shake it kind of like how Vic would. Even though a lot of the cocktails that I show you on this channel are modern interpretations of classics, my originals, or even just modern classic, or even just modern tiki cocktails in general, I always try to look at them as how they would be done in the golden era of tiki with the ingredients that we have today. Essentially, that's what we're doing. We're taking tiki and elevating it from the 1930s and 40s and 50s into today's modern technology with today's modern ingredients. Anyway, that's really it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I really hope you go out and enjoy Cinco de Mayo. Speaking of which, if you'd like to see other videos for future Cinco de Mayos, definitely drop a comment below. Let me know what you'd like to see. I've got a couple on my brain. I'd love to do the best frozen margarita, but that's not really tiki. Honestly, tiki and Cinco de Mayo don't really fit super well together because tequila, which is typically synonymous with Cinco de Mayo, is not huge in tiki. Maybe we should change that. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, like this video, follow me over on Instagram and TikTok at EasyTikiDrinks, subscribe to the Patreon, and yeah, that's it for now. So until next time, take it easy.